In this video, we're going to see how we can get an enemy character to be shot and to take damage and to be killed. And we'll see how that is done using the shooter module in Game Creator 2. So let's get started. So here I have created an enemy. This is just the standard character. So we just go Game Creator, characters, character, and I just moved it over here. It's just a standard character. I called it enemy, and when we play the game, it'll just stand there in idle mode. There's no AI on the character at all. So when I go to shoot the character, nothing will happen. It does not know it's being shot. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make it so that this guy takes damage, and when it gets to 0 hit points, then it will die. So first of all, we're going to give it a class. So we have the stats module installed, and I'm just going to create a folder called stats, and we're going to create a player or a class for the stats class, and we'll call it enemy. And we need to add an attribute and a stat. So we're going to create a hit point stat. So let's do that. Max HP, and that's going to be max HP. And 100, I'm going to give them 100 to start with. And then we're going to create the other attribute called hit points. And the max value is going to be our max HP. And the start percentage is 1, so he has 100 hit points to start with. And then all we have to do is assign that to the class. So we'll add the stat and the attribute. There we go. And then we just assign that to the character. So we add traits and give it the enemy class. So now we have our hit points. And we see he has 100 hit points. So, right, so next, what we want to do is make it aware that it's being hit. To make him aware that he's being hit, there's a new event called on shoot hit that allows us to know that something has been hit. So what we can do here is I'm gonna create a child, an empty child here, and I'm gonna name it hitbox. So what we need to do is create a hitbox for this character. So because if we look at the trigger and we go on shoot hit, it's executed when a shot hits the collider on this trigger. And talking about trigger, it's talking about this as a trigger. So we need a collider in order for it to work. So we need to add a collider. So I'm going to add a box collider. A mesh collider won't work for this. So we need a box collider. And we're going to make it, and yeah, we need to size it accordingly. So make it smaller, maybe 0.5. I think y equals 2, maybe 0.5, 0.5. Just something, and y can come down a little bit, and then we can move it a little bit there like that. Just something that so that if the main part of the body gets hit, then it will detect it. So on shoot hit, and then we can just see if it's actually working. We can see it in the console if it's going to detect it. Pick it up. There we go. And yes, the enemy was hit. So each enemy detects its own getting hit, and it will manage its own hit points. So now we want to change attribute of this character, and then we want it'll be the hit points attribute, and we want to subtract, let's say 10. So it'll take 10 shots to kill this enemy. The other thing we could do is put in some type of feedback that shows the player that the enemy is being hit. So for instance, like a take damage animation. So if we have such a thing, if we have any such thing, what we can do is do a play gesture here. So play gesture, and then we just give it the animation clip. And we don't have any take damage clips by default here. There's this damage hit, which is a stats example. Let's take a look at that. But this one is not it's not a character animation, so we can't use that one. So what we can do is, if you have a pack, like for instance the Kevin Iglesias pack, let's just take a look. I'm going to install that so we can use it. Kevin Iglesias has a bunch of useful animation packs. So we have the soldier animations pack. So I'm going to import that. These are often on sale, so you can get them in the asset store for cheap if you keep an eye out. But he has a lot of different animation packs that work well with Game Creator 2. So once that's installed, it's in the Kevin Iglesias shooter animations, and we can look at the animations. And I think it's in combat. So we also have a death animation in there, which I'm going to use. And so let's see, assault rifle. And there's some take damage clips here that we can take a look at. If we go into them, you can take a look. They've already got avatars and all that. So all you have to do is you drag and drop and use them. So this one shows when he's taking damage. So that one. So we'll use that one. Let's see what this one does. They're all like fairly similar. Um, that one, it depends on the direction they're taking damage, but this one's more of like in the front. So we're going to use that one. So here we're going to add our take damage 1. Where'd it go? Okay. Add the take damage 1 clip. It's just as easy as dragging and dropping it, and we'll see if it works. I'm not sure why that's happening. Oh wait, did I assign it to the wrong person? Hitbox. Oh yeah, I'm playing it on the player, so we need to make sure it says character enemy. And instead of me taking the hit, the enemy will. see it's running that animation each time that it gets hit. Now we'll see how many hit points does it have. It still has 20 hit points. So let's get him down to 0. So he's at 0 hit points. And he's still up, right? So now we need to kill the enemy once it reaches 0 hit points, because otherwise it'll just stay up and working. So that's the next step. So we've got and we can turn off the wait to complete so that as he's getting hit, it'll interrupt the animation if he gets hit in quick succession. So, which is probably better. So, and I think he is dead. Yeah. So he gets hit 10 times and he's dead. But basically, so there we go. And then, so now what we do is here, when we'll put a trigger on the character that detects changes in the attributes. So when the hit points changes, we're going to check conditions, and we're going to check that we're going to compare attribute hit points. If the value is less than or equal to 0, then we're going to kill the character. Okay, so yeah, so we want it to go into characters, properties, and kill character, not the player. We want to kill self, so it'll kill itself. So let's see what happens when that happens. So theoretically, it's killed, but nothing happened. So let's. I just want to make sure. Okay. Well, if the player's hit points. We'll see if it actually does die. Okay. Okay, it's not dead. It never got. Oh wait, that's why. Okay. The default on a lot of these is the player, so we need to make sure that we're dealing with the enemy and not the player. Otherwise, it won't work. Okay, this should do it. And still, it did not. Oh wait, again. Okay, so when we do a check, character, enemy. Keep in mind that the player is default on a lot of these events and conditions, so it's easy to forget to change the target of what we're checking. So let's see if this fixes it. Okay, so he's dead now. Kill character ran, but nothing happened. He's still up and running. So what we need to do is once the enemy dies, we need like a death state, basically. So we're going to create an empty child here called onDie. And then in the trigger, we're going to do, there's an onDie trigger. So here we go. And again, character, enemy. We can do, so what we're going to do is have a death state. And we're going to use that death one from the soldier animations. The death, one of the death ones. I think it's this one. That's fine. So he's just going to fall to the ground. So we're going to do that. And to do that, we're just going to create a state. Not shooter, just common. I think it's in characters, animation state, right? So the name of the animation state would be death. And the state clip is what the clip that's going to play. So we're going to play the combat one, I think it is. I'm just gonna go death 01A. That's the one. So that's all we need to do, I think. And it will play the animation. And then since there's nothing to bring it out of the state, it'll stay on the ground. It should stay on the ground. So then now we're going to do the play enter state. Enter state. And then we're going to enter the character into the death state that we created just a second ago. Death state. And I think we can just leave it at that. And if you never exit the state, the enemy will stay in this state forever, right? So what we want to do is put them in a death state. We also want to disable this hitbox because it is physically there. It's a box collider that's still there, and you cannot make it a trigger. Otherwise, this on shoot hit won't work. So we're going to disable the hitbox. We're going to set active this to false. Put them in the death state, and then we're going to enter the ragdoll. Start the ragdoll on the enemy. And then that would allow you to interact with the enemy's body once it's on the floor. You don't need to do this ragdoll step, but it's optional. So let's see if it works. There we go. Now he's dead. So now we should be able to interact with the ragdoll. No, maybe not. No. Because what we want to do here, so because there is no ragdoll on this character, so that's why it wasn't working. Default ragdoll is what we want to use. The skeleton, and yes, if it turns red, if you see all these red things, then the skeleton is correct, and we'll see what happens now. Okay, now he's in ragdoll, and now I can kick him around because it's working. The ragdoll is working, so it's a little jittery here, but it does work. You can't shoot the ragdoll and have it do anything because the bullets, I'm not using kinetic or physics-based bullets in this weapon right now. So, it doesn't really, you can't really interact with it like that. I do believe the physics-based bullets would be able to. Um, okay, so that works. I also want to show what happened when you just put them into a ragdoll here. And we'll just turn off this on die thing for a minute. And then we're just going to, where is it? Here. Start ragdoll. Start ragdoll on the character. Okay. And so we can do that. But you'll see what happens. Let's see how it freaks out. The ragdoll freaks right out as if it's a horror game or something, and before it goes to the ground. So it's better to play an animation and put them in a state. It's much more smooth than just to start the ragdoll. You can just do that, and it will work. But it's, as you saw, it will just freak right out. But in the first half a second or so, and it looks weird. So that's why I did it this way, where you come in here, you um, turn off the hitbox, and put them in a death state, which plays an animation, and then it smoothly goes into this ragdoll. It's much more smooth. So I think this is the better way to do it. So here we go. And then he smoothly goes into the ragdoll state, and he stays there, and he's going to stay dead. It sort of does freak out a little bit, but you could use other ragdoll solutions that probably work better. This one works okay. But if you don't want to do a ragdoll, if you get rid of the start ragdoll, it'll be fine as well. And he's dead. And now I can just walk right through him as if he doesn't exist. Some games do it this way, and other games like to do the ragdoll. So it's all up to you what you want to do. But there's another way we can do this as well. The weapon itself checks to see if a hit has happened, if it has hit anything. So what we can do here is put our instructions in here instead and remove the hitbox. So we can just deactivate that so it no longer does anything. And then we could just take these two instructions and put them in here instead. And that way you don't need a hitbox. So on hit, we want to change the attribute of the target, and it's the target. So it knows which target it was. And then we just do hit points, subtract, and then we're doing 10. And then we just want to play that gesture on the target. And that is going to be the take damage. Take damage. So that's all we have to do. And now that's deactivated. And then in the on die, we can get rid of this or disable this set hitbox to false. And then we're putting in a state death and a ragdoll as before. So let's just see if this works. And yes, it does work just as before. And the shooter module is taking care of detecting if the character was hit or not. So it may even be, it's going to be more accurate than the hitbox. The only problem is if you want this take damage to be different for each character, we wouldn't want to put that in here. We might not even want to put the amount of hit points in here if we want to have something else detect that. So in that case, what we could do is just send a signal, emit a signal, and call it like on hit. Let's see, AK weapon hit. So we'd send a signal, and then over here on the enemy, on each character they can have a on hit event here. So and then basically receive. We want to receive the signal on receive signal, and then we'll get it from over here. And then we'll add our instructions over here instead. So let me copy them. I'll copy them out of here. Copy them and paste it. And goes here. And this one, copy. And we play the gesture, okay. And then, so then every character would be responsible for its own take damage animation and deducting the damage as well. Because then on each enemy, different prefab, you could have a different amount of damage that gets calculated, etc. So let's see if this works. And it does. It was a little wonky there with the ragdoll, but it does work as well. So you'll notice a small side effect to doing it with this the on hit method of the weapon. Let's just take a look what happens if we shoot something that isn't this character. So let's shoot this column next to him. You'll see that shooting something else kills the character. Actually, it keeps doing it actually. It keeps sending the signal right on hit. So what we want to do here, which then hits this signal. Where's the signal? The on hit signal, and then it does this. It keeps doing it. So on die, on hit, and then let's see what happens if we keep hitting the enemy after it's dead. Does it do the same? Okay. Yes, it does. See, so now it will keep dying over and over again. So got a little side effect that we need to fix. So here's what we got to do. In the on receive signal, or actually in the AK weapon, on the signal, what we want to do is check conditions. And we want to make sure that the so is traits of class, so that the target is of class enemy, so that it won't react to other things. It won't react to this, for instance, or any other thing. And also we need to check add a condition. If the target is not dead. Because if the target's dead, we don't want it to react to anything. Then it'll send the signal. So let's see if this fixes the issue. Okay, first issue. Can we shoot this without affecting him? So yeah, that's fixed. So now let's kill him. He's dead. He's dead now. I think it is affecting the ragdoll a little bit. And now he stays dead. He stays down. So that's fixed. So when you're using this AK weapon on hit, you need to check these conditions. Otherwise, it's just going to keep doing it over and over again. So with this method, you're going to notice another side effect if I do it this way. If I'm emitting a signal, that means if I have multiple enemies, so because I'm emitting a signal, if I put more than one enemy out, so I made this a prefab and just dragged another copy of it into the scene. So we have the same enemy here, and then the problem here is they're both listening to the signal. So enemy 1 is also listening to the same on-hit signal. So it's going to take damage even though it doesn't get shot. So here's this is a side effect of that, doing that. So it's a drawback, I guess. So if I shoot one, it's going to kill the other as well. They're both going to take damage. If I shoot the other one, so everything that's listening to that signal is going to take damage, which we definitely do not want. So how can we fix this problem? I do believe we can fix it. So we can fix it by in this prefab, as I created an enemy prefab, we're going to add a local name variable, and it's going to be called isHit, and we will make it a Boolean, and that's that. So it's by default it's false. And then what we want to do is in the AK weapon, we're going to, before we signal, we're going to set the Boolean of this local name variable. Instead of game object though, we're going to use target. And this will work even though we can't see the variable. We have to actually manually type it in. So if we go down here, regardless of the same ID issue, it will still work. So we copy the name of the variable and we paste it in here. So we're going to set the target is hit to true. So we're going to say, yes, that target was just hit, and then we're going to send the signal. And then in the prefab here, we're going to take a look at the on hit. So in here, we're going to do check conditions. And we're going to check the compare Boolean. We're going to check the variable, this local name variable, which is over here. If it equals true, then that's the condition. So then we deduct the hit points and we do the gesture. Only if, so it's saying is if this enemy is hit, this specific enemy is hit, then it will do that. And then we want to set the Boolean, turn it back off, because so that it can be reset again the next time it gets shot. So we want to turn it off again so that it will only deduct it once instead of multiple times. So we turn it off, and then that way only this one enemy that will react to it. So let's see if that fixes the issue. Okay, so we should be able to just shoot this guy, and the other guy doesn't do anything. Good, he's dead. And now this guy, and it works. So now we have two separate enemies that are detecting their own, whether or not they were hit or not, because in um, this specific error right here, you can ignore it. It works anyway. So because it's part of this prefab. So basically, it's going to set the target's version of that variable. So whichever was hit, and then everything's going to get the signal, but only the one that actually was hit is going to be reacting to it. So that will fix that issue. So that's it for how do you get an enemy to stay dead, because just doing on or kill enemy doesn't do it. In some cases, you'll see that the enemy goes down. When you do kill enemy, it goes down and comes right back up again. I did see that behavior before. In my case, it was just staying up. So it doesn't do anything by itself. You do have to put him into a state or get him into a ragdoll for him to stay down. So in the next video, I am going to cover how the reload mechanics work, because it's a little complicated. Like how would you, because we have these weapons that come with Game Creator 2. These weapons um, are plastic, kind of plasticky. So what I wanted to do was to use a custom weapon that looks different, so that it may have a different location for the magazine. So we would need to make adjustments to the reload mechanic right here, this AK reload, which is a separate um, object in here. And so to make changes to it, we need to know how this works. So in the next video, I'm going to go over how this works and how you would adjust it to make the magazine on the gun be in a different location. And we will see you in the next one.